Hey, I'm Ali.
And I'm Weilyn. Welcome back to the Entrepreneurs Podcast, the podcast for and by female entrepreneurs, hosted by the Entrepreneurs Network, the most acclaimed female entrepreneur network in the world. Each week, we bring you stories of female entrepreneurs around the world as we kickstart our own journeys together.
Today, we are delighted to have on Nicole Smith, the founder and CEO of Flytographer, a marketplace that connects people with local photographers in cities and around the world for fun, hassle-free vacation photo shoots. Under the pandemic, the business also expanded to offering local hometown photo shoots, headshots, and a travel gift-themed e-commerce shop. She was previously a market manager and consultant at Microsoft and helped develop high-impact, results-oriented content to support product sales.
Join us as we talk with Nicole about starting your side hustle despite uncertainties, as well as how Flytographer, a travel photography company, worked through obstacles of the pandemic. Welcome back to the Entrepreneurs Podcast. We are so excited and honored to have Nicole here with us today. Nicole is the founder of Flytographer and the board member of the Forum. How are you doing today?
Awesome. How are you?
Really
Wonderful.
good.
Yeah, we're so excited. We're just talking about the crazy heat that's like engulfed British Columbia, and this is where Nicole's based right now. Pretty insane, but I'm happy that things are kind of cooling down, literally and figuratively. But just to get started, we'd love to ask you, what is something that excites you when you wake up in the morning in beautiful British Columbia?
Ooh, you know what excites me right now is just seeing all of the people that are getting vaccinated and the vaccination pace here, especially in Canada, and how some things are starting to open up in the world again. So seeing travel, you know, the signs of travel coming back, that's what excites me.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I would love to know, as we all know, you are a photographer, an amazing photographer. And I would love to know how like that opening up has been for you and how COVID has changed kind of your business.
Sure.
Too.
Yeah, so actually I should confess something. I am not an awesome photographer. Like I am a hobbyist for sure. People always, you know, they're like, oh, you know, you started a global photography company. Like how long have you been a professional photographer? And I'm like, never. I'm actually
0 years.
I'm like, I worked, you know, in marketing,
Awesome.
Microsoft, and at startups. And so I came at it from the side of, you know, I had a problem I wanted to solve and
Love it.
kind of figured out the photography. And now over the years, I've learned a few photography tips and now I shoot, but I've never was a professional photographer.
Okay, so what's this problem you wanted to solve? What drew you to starting a photography company then? What is this huge problem?
Yeah, so for me, I love looking at photos. I love like taking photos with my iPhone and just really I'm a big memory person. So I like to look back and, you know, reminisce and things like that.
Totally.
I was on a trip to Paris with my best friend and we were having this great time without husbands or kids where we were just like soaking up the city and give our iPhone to people and say, oh, can you take a photo? Which like, and what we would get back would be like, I would have 6 chins or
oh,
like,
for sure.
You know, her head's
it looks like
completely.
Totally. Yeah.
And it's just like
the thumb and the finger. And they have the phone for like 2 minutes. You're like, they're getting the best photo. And they take like -3 photos. I don't know how.
Yeah.
And they change your background. I don't know how.
And it just like, it's the same thing again and again. And then like, it doesn't, and then you try to take a selfie with your own hand and your head takes up so much of the photo, you can't even see the city, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And selfie sticks, we can't do that. We're not doing selfie. We're not going to that level. No.
Selfie sticks, I'm not happening. Anyways, it was on this trip to Paris.
Yeah.
Where, we had a local friend that we knew, and I gave her my iPhone, and I said, "Hey, can you take a couple shots of us, but from a distance?" So you know,
yes.
Walking down the cobblestones, even with our back to the camera, but the whole, like, you could see the amazing architecture of Paris, that third character in the story. And so like we're this big and then there's all this Parisian architecture and she took a bunch of shots of like us walking and us talking with that wide angle kind of vantage point. And
Yeah.
it was just like the best souvenir from that trip. And it just took me right back to that moment with my best friend, Erica. And I thought, man, like how do we get this on a future trip? Like, I don't, these are terrible. And the strangers, like they take a couple bad shots and you don't want to keep going back to them and being like, actually, can you like take another?
Totally.
That was where the idea came from.
Okay. And I like how you said it's people, because my aunt, who I was just actually mentioning, who's from British Columbia, she's a photographer in Toronto as well. And she always tells us, like, the one tip she says, like, a picture's boring without a person. Okay, of course you're doing National Geographic. Yes, you want the beautiful line, but with people, that's what make the photos. And I love that most of the photos I see are with people that brings it to life. So I'm curious to hear how you wanted that, or you brought that life. So you acknowledge this problem. You saw people wanted to have cool photos of them in a cool location. Okay, great. You know this problem. Then where did you go with this problem?
Yeah, so it was basically coming back to Canada from this trip, thinking about this, and I don't know if this has happened to you guys, but like this idea for Flytographer sat in my brain for 9 months, but I was too scared to do anything about it. And I was like, oh, I don't have time. I've got a full-time job, got 2 kids. Like, it's just too, and I'm not a photographer, as I've already told you. So I'm like, what am I, like, why am I, you know, the right person to do this? And so the idea just kind of like sat around in my head for a long time. And then I finally came to the point where it was literally bursting out of me every day. And I said to myself, okay, if I don't take action towards doing something and starting the startup by my birthday, and for me it was my 40th that was coming up, and I'm like, if I don't take action by my birthday in September, then it's over. I'm gonna stop thinking about it, I'm burying it, it's dead. And so it was almost like giving myself that artificial deadline to like do something about it. So I always tell people, like, if you have an idea and it just won't let go of you, you know, maybe there's a reason for that, right? And if it's something that solves a problem for you personally, maybe there's something to that. And I always think those are 2 really good things to think about when you're, you know, considering being an entrepreneur.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
I think a lot of female entrepreneurs relate to this idea of having a problem and having an idea and solution, but not really, like, at first it's really scary to kind of give up that security or that safety net almost, and like take that leap of faith. And I love how you describe it as like the idea was bursting out of you. And I think that me and Ali definitely relate with this podcast. I think the idea was just like bubbling in us for not even that long, for like a couple weeks, and we just like couldn't hold it any longer. So I definitely resonate with that. But I would also love to hear more about, like, where did your entrepreneurial journey start? Like, even before you started this photography business, where did you see sparks of entrepreneurship?
Well, okay, to be honest, like, my dad was an entrepreneur.
I love that.
Yeah, my ex-husband was an entrepreneur. So there was lots of entrepreneurs in my world and in my circles. And I actually saw how hard it was to be an entrepreneur from them. And I swore I would never become an entrepreneur because of, like, I know how hard it is. I've seen it from the inside, and it's not for everybody. So I joined Safe Harbor. I worked at Microsoft for a really long time, and you know, I did a startup before then. But being an entrepreneur, like, I always had ideas, and they'd always come in my head, but I would flick them away like a pesky mosquito, and I'd be like, don't have time for you. So I'd ignore these ideas that would kind of circle around my brain. And it wasn't until Flytographer where I literally resisted it for 9 months. But I just was like, you know what? I just can't ignore it. And so I went for it.
And the baby was born. The baby was born. 9 months. It was born afterwards.
I always I say I gestated for 9 months, and now here's my 3rd child, because it is my 3rd child. But yeah, I think I tried to ignore the entrepreneurial. You know, I didn't want to go down that path, and I wanted to, because I can see it's a challenging path, but I think that it just was something I had to do.
Totally. And okay, so this baby was born after 9 months. And tell me about its upbringing. Tell me where she began. What was her toddler age like? Was the terrible 2s? Were you like, oh my goodness, this is difficult? Is she grown up now? Tell me about her her, the raising of Fly Photographer, your third child?
Well, first of all, it's definitely a girl, so you nailed that right. It's
I didn't want to assume. I'm so sorry I assumed. No, I'm very sorry I assumed. I didn't want to assume.
no, it's fine.
Right.
I had 2 boys, so of course my third had to be a girl.
Oh, so this had to be a girl, of course. I'm sorry.
And actually, currently our team is all women. So, so that
Wow.
kind of,
Was this? That's so cool. That is amazing.
So okay, so the first step I did was I started thinking about a name, and I thought, well, what's the harm in coming up with a name? So like, this is kind of the game I would play with myself when I was first starting to plan Flytographer was, well, there's no harm in this. I'll just try this. There's no harm in this. And so I did all these kind of like easy things like, well, what's the name going to be? So I played around and came up with, the name Flytographer, found out I had the .com. And so I bought the .com, and that was sort of like a first commitment towards the path. Then I had a friend who was going to Paris for her birthday, and I said, hey, how would you feel if I hired a photographer in Paris to follow you around and take photos for an hour? Would you be cool with that? And she was like, yeah, for sure. So then I got on Craigslist and I started interviewing photographers in Paris, and literally, did Zoom calls. I think it was a Skype call back then, and found this guy, Gonzalo, who was willing to, go along with my plan. He didn't look like a serial killer, so I felt like, okay, this guy will work out, and it'll be, And so on that first shoot in Paris, he followed them from behind almost the whole time, so we didn't get a lot of pictures of them. So it was almost like a stalkerati type of thing. But we learned from that, and then I had another friend going to London. And so, I gave more coaching and make sure you get in front and make sure you interact. And so I did a series of these shoots in different cities with friends who happened to be traveling. And throughout that sort of beta test period, I learned a ton and kind of knew what I needed to build. And my friends told me, hey, this was really great, because not only did I get awesome photos I'd never get on my own, but like the person told me cool tips about the city that I probably wouldn't have learned otherwise. So they kind of enriched our trip. So I had enough, to kind of cobble together a minimum viable product.
Yeah, for sure. I think also on that topic too, I feel like building that first product, I think was also like a big step for us. And I definitely resonate with what you say, like just like having something that you like produced and then like being able to sell that and like expand from there is so important. I would love to like shift gears and learn more about how you were able to face any challenges that you came across, or if you have any stories of how your entrepreneurial journey changed the way you thought of entrepreneur, or changed the way you thought about failure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of a good example. I could tell you about COVID. Like, we had a really crazy year last year. So we were on a really awesome growth trajectory as a business. When we were hit with COVID last year in March, I had to lay off 75% of my team, which was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do. You've got relationships with people for years that you feel like a family almost. But I knew that, like, I could see the writing on the wall. I've been tracking what was happening in China, and like I could see that this was going to hit us hard for a long time. And so I had to make this decision to just, control what I could, which was cut expenses and figure out how to move forward from there. And so the challenge of COVID to my business was incredible, in that we had to, figure out how to, like, we were so over-indexed on travel. So like 90% of photo shoots were travel-based. You never have this plan that, oh, the whole world will stop traveling. Like, it was never part of my planning. I always thought we were diversified, because if one region goes down, there's like all these other regions. So, but I learned to, like, how do I diversify outside of just travel photography? And so one of the things we did last year was started a new vertical called hometown shoots, so people could book Flytographer for a birthday party, or like, family.
That's fantastic.
And that really, that helped diversify us. And then in February, we launched our headshot vertical called the Modern Headshot, so people can get, headshots for if they're launching a business, or a student that's graduating, or like a doctor that has a new website, LinkedIn, dating, everything. So Now we kind of have 3 kind of core areas that people can book shoots in. So we're more diversified if travel, shuts down again. But also it was great for our customers because they were able to see like, hey, I trust Flytographer as a brand, and like they can also help me here and they can help me there. So it, the silver lining of that difficult year where like we had to go down to the skeletal staff, we didn't know what the future held, was, it was pretty intense because you don't know what's going on personally. Like, is my family going to be safe from COVID? Are my friends going to be safe from COVID? Business is like cratered and you're not sure. So like, I think that the resilience you develop and the scar tissue from those challenging, really tough times where you have to just like, hold out hope, makes you a stronger entrepreneur, and also, oftentimes more diversified and things like that. And that was definitely the case for us coming out the other end.
Yeah, for sure. I love how you were able to take this challenge and build something like even more amazing and like expand and diversify your business too. In terms of building a team, I know earlier you said you have like a female only team.
Yeah.
What is it like to like manage a team, and like how do you balance all of these different sectors of your business too?
Yeah, I mean, we had a couple men on our team prior to COVID, but we went down to 4 people when we had COVID. And then since then we've scaled up to, I think we have 11 or 12 now. And it just happened to be that everyone was female. It's been interesting because we were in an office before. So we had this big, beautiful office downtown. Everyone came 9 to 5. We did, worked out of the office, and all based in Victoria, Canada. And then during the pandemic, obviously everyone worked at home. So we got, fluent with Zoom and how to work asynchronously and things like that. And now we're coming around the corner where we have a new sort of like office, but it's more of a launch pad. We call it the Nest, and it's actually my basement.
I love that.
With like
No.
and like cute kitchen. It's actually really cute. We have really fun wallpaper. So we have this part of my house that's dedicated to Flytographer, but we don't work there every day. It's more for like, okay, let's do a marketing content jam, and the marketing team will come and plan all our content, or the customer experience team will come and we'll, talk through some issues. So it's more like a meeting gathering place. And then we actually have 3 kayaks here. So we head to the beach after if we want to and go for a kayak or have a drink in the garden. So it's really interesting to see like, okay, so now, and we also have team members across Canada. So we've been hiring the best talent wherever they happen to be in the country.
Amazing.
So that's been really cool too. And we just onboarded someone who started today. Her name is Emma, and she's from Ontario. So trying to figure out how to make everyone feel connected and included,
totally.
Some people here and some people remote, and that fatigue. It's been an interesting challenge and something we're just figuring it out in real time, as many companies are.
So in the hopes of like keeping everyone connected and included within the organization, what sort of inspiration do you think that photography brings, or what message do you hope to share with the world?
Yeah, I think for us, I mean, we're testing things right now, and we're asking for the team to be like really transparent with their feedback on what they think works and what they think doesn't work, and like reading what other companies are doing and talking to my fellow founder friends. I'm like, what's working in your company? So some of the things that have worked for us are, we use a lot of Loom. Do you guys know Loom videos?
Yeah, I think I've used it for like product development. Like it's like really nice to like embed into emails and like kind of have that to show people. It's a really good platform. Yeah.
So I love Loom videos because I can like walk people through a spreadsheet, and like there's my little face in the corner, and I'm like talking through the spreadsheet as I click through things, and send them that like 5-minute video asynchronously. And then it's great. It's a great way to communicate with people, so then they can read it like when they have a chance, and then we can collaborate over Slack or collaborate over Zoom or what have you. So we use a lot of Loom videos. We have we played games over Zoom where we had cocktails and games, and so people would log on and do that. And then we have a channel in Slack called #HelloFriends, and so every day people upload a photo from like wherever they are doing, like, and it can be like picture their dog or picture their lunch, but just like anything goes. And so it's just a way for us to get little glimpses into each other's lives.
I love that so much. I think we're gonna do that for
It's
our next Slack
amazing.
channel.
Yeah, that's so cool. And with the thought of like photography and how this can really be a window to the eye, I've seen some wonderful iterations on how people have like taken photos of COVID and like documented their time. So how do you think like the field of photography, I know you're not like a self-proclaimed expert of photography yourself, and I'm sure you're super talented and just super humble. But how do you think photography and the way we take photos like kind of paints a photo and tells a story of our history and culture? How have you seen that change with COVID?
Yeah, I think that people are realizing the things that matter. There's a lot of reflection going on right now for many of us. You know, when you have so much loss and so much change, it's natural for people to like rethink things. So I think everything from like, am I doing the right job, or like, am I with the right partner? Am I living in the right place? And being able to document and sort of, you know, reminisce on the things that matter to you. So we're seeing like with our customers, so many multi-generational reunions where the family's gathering for the first time since COVID. We're seeing a lot of what we call hug shots, where it's that first big hug with grandma after COVID and not being able to see each other.
Oh my goodness. Hug shots.
I just got
that's
goosebumps.
so sweet.
Yeah,
That's so powerful.
And we're seeing a lot of people that had held off proposals and honeymoons, like starting to sort of, you know, do those things again. But my favorite photo from the pandemic is from a photographer of mine in Lisbon, and she had twins during the pandemic. And there's this amazing photograph. I'll have to send it to you guys. You know, her aesthetic is just so great. So she's got these two cribs right by the window, and then there's a photo of her mom and dad peering in the window at the twins because they couldn't you know, obviously visit with them at that point.
Yeah.
That photo just
oh my goodness.
The photo that kind of defines the pandemic, and how even though we're apart, we're still together. And you know, just like what matters at the end of the day is family and love and being together and all those things. And photography is an amazing vehicle for capturing that.
Yeah, I completely agree
more.
I also feel like all of these photos from the pandemic, because it was so like, it was like a worldwide thing, like everyone relates to that. Like, I don't know the person, I don't know the twins, but like I imagine seeing that photo, like, and like having such a similar experience like worldwide. I definitely will see some impacts in the photography world for sure. But on that, as we begin to wrap up the podcast, we love to ask our guests, what is something that you are grateful for today?
Ooh, I'm grateful for so many things. I think, you know, on a personal note, I'll say on a personal and a work. On a personal note, I'm grateful that I feel like a bonus year with my kids where we were home together so much, and they're 14 and 16.
Beautiful.
So like, we just had so much time together, and and being able to hear the birds outside my window while I work and working from home, I really learned that I loved working from home more. So grateful for that, and I feel like I have more balanced life. And then on the work side, I am just so grateful for the team that helped ride through the storm of COVID and was so loyal and funny and just incredible for the last year, because it was tough to stick with a photography startup during COVID, and they all did, and they were all amazing. And so I'll just always be grateful for my team.
I love that. And then on that note as well, what is something that you love about yourself or love about Fly Photography, love about your life, your kids, anything? What do you love right now?
You know what I love about Flytographer is that I just get to see every single day through the photos how much good and how much love is out there in the world. And you know, we captured like 3 million photos of everyone from millennials to grandparents, and you just see all these stories of hope and love and joy. And with all the dark news we see all the time, I'm just grateful that I'm in the business where we get to capture and see how the world is a lot more alike than different through the photography across the world. So I'm super grateful for that.
It's amazing. It's amazing, amazing, amazing.
And then to end us off, what does it mean to be an entrepreneur to you?
Ooh, that's a great question. To me, being an entrepreneur is really just being a builder and a creator and seeing something and imagining, like seeing a problem or seeing an opportunity and imagining in your mind what that can be before it actually exists in the world. And I think that's what an entrepreneur is.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you, Fly Photographer? How can they connect with the forum, this wonderful female-empowered entrepreneurship group that you're a part of? Tell us where we can connect and help support you.
So you can follow Flytographer at Flytographer on all the social channels, or flytographer.com. You can follow me on Instagram at Flytographer Life, so just Flytographer and then LIFE. And the Forum for Women Entrepreneurs, if you're a female entrepreneur in Canada and you want to learn more about the programs and resources of that charity, it's theforum.ca.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on.
That wraps it up for today's podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you learned a lot about Nicole and Flytography.
Great thanks to Shreya and Stephanie as our podcast producers too.
Check out our past episodes and look out for our upcoming episodes featuring inspiring female entrepreneurs on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this podcast now.
To stay updated and involved, join the Entrepreneurs Network community on our Instagram and LinkedIn, and get in touch with us to share your very own entrepreneurial journey.